Hey everyone, I'm Mike Dahl. I'm one of the lawyers here at Valent Legal. In a recent video, we talked about when you should file a birth injury lawsuit. Today's video, we're going to talk about what to expect if you do end up filing a birth injury lawsuit. Today's video is a series of videos about birth injury and medical malpractice. If you like the video, feel free to check out some of the others, or you can go to our website at valentlegal.ca and follow us on Instagram for more information. If your child or loved one has suffered a birth injury, I know that that can be a life-altering consequence. That you or your loved one may be stressed out and think about, how am I going to care for this child over the course of his or her life? One of the answers may be a birth injury lawsuit, where a child's injury was preventable or else caused by medical negligence. The insurance companies or the insurer of the medical professional who caused the harm is responsible for paying the lifetime costs and harms associated with the injury that they caused. One question we're often asked is, how do I start a birth injury claim? How do I get this off the ground? First step is to reach out to a lawyer with proven experience in birth injury litigation. That lawyer will help you request all the records that are needed in order to assess the merits of the claim. Here in Canada, medical professionals are required to keep records for a 10-year period from the last treatment. As it relates to children, newborns, those records related to the birth have to be kept by the physician or the health authority, the hospital, for 10 years after the child turns 19. And so they're there, even if we're talking about something that is perhaps historic in nature. And experienced lawyers who do this work and help families with birth injury claims know how to get the records. Once the lawyer gets the records, he or she will typically work with an experienced medical expert to assess where things went wrong, what could have been prevented. And then using that information, will draft a lawsuit, right? Making general allegations of negligence and also the specific allegations which are learned about through the consultation of medical experts. Once that claim is filed, gets served on the doctors or nurses, and then off to their insurance company, who will hire a lawyer to defend their interests. For more information about that type of process, about the litigation process, check out some of our other videos where we've gone into more detail. The consequences of a severe birth injury are lifelong and can be financially difficult on a family. They include things like cost of care, which can be quite large in severe cases. How are you as parents going to afford the costs it's going to take to make sure that your child receives the treatment and care necessary to ensure he or she gets the best possible quality of life? Also, in the event of a severe birth injury, it's often the case that the child will not be able to work independently as an adult. And that child is then entitled to all the income that he or she may have otherwise would have received had the birth injury not have happened in the first place. And so these lawsuits seek to get compensation for those really big losses. A lifetime of income loss. What would that child likely have gone on to do in life had he or she not been disabled by a birth injury? Which requires, courts and experts to look at a bit of a crystal ball method of what are their siblings doing? What do their parents do for work? Grandparents, uncles? Because statistically, that child would likely fall in line with his or her close family members in terms of vocational attainment. Also, the cost of care for a child with a severe birth injury is large. Does the child need 24-hour care? Is he or she not able to make independent decisions? In an extreme example, does he or she need wheelchairs? And if so, at law, that child is entitled to the very best equipment possible, which of course becomes quite expensive over a lifetime. Birth injury litigation seeks to ensure that that child and that family is provided with all the supports needed to ensure the best possible quality of life for that child. In addition to cost of lifetime care and a lifetime loss of income or diminished earning capacity, a child is also entitled to be compensated for his or her pain and suffering. We've talked in other videos about how pain and suffering is compensated in Canada. This concept of general damages. It's a loss that injured folks are entitled to, but which you can't take a calculator to in the way you can, in determining income loss or the cost of help and supports, the cost of a wheelchair, for example. When it comes time to, assess damages or compensation, experienced lawyers also work with experts. Experts are used to determine the appropriate level of compensation for cost of care, cost of replacement services. For example, wheelchair modalities. What's the cost of the best wheelchair on the market? And what is, the replacement? What's the life expectancy of that piece of equipment? Experts help determine that. And so experienced birth injury lawyers work with those experts to determine a cost for the life care plan of an injured child. I often get asked from family members, how long is my birth injury lawsuit going to take? And the answer is varied. To say the least, it takes years. These are complex pieces of litigation that, given the value or the degree of the loss, the financial loss, are almost always vigorously defended by the insurer of the health professional. So in order to help get the child or the family the greatest compensation possible, it does take a number of years to work its way through the legal system. Ultimately, that's okay, because ultimately your child gets one shot at it. You have one lawsuit, the outcome of which determines the degree of compensation that is intended to ensure that that child has a good quality of life for the remainder of his or her life. And so whether a lawsuit takes 3 years or 5 years, at the end of the day, it's my hope as a birth injury lawyer to help a family get life-altering compensation to ensure that all the stress and all the needs of the child and the family are dissipated somewhat. A hotly debated item in birth injury litigation is often life expectancy. How long is an injured child expected to live as a result of his or her birth injury? Somewhat ironically, insurers for medical professionals, if they know that that the defendant, that the doctor, the nurse was likely negligent, and that negligence likely caused a birth injury, then they focus very heavily on trying to prove that the life expectancy of the injured child is significantly lessened. It may seem counterintuitive at first, to argue, I've injured the child so much that his or her life expectancy is now reduced substantially. But from an economic perspective, a reduced life expectancy argument also reduces the care costs and the income losses that negligent party owes the family and owes the child. To have an experienced birth injury lawyer in your corner helps prove a longer life expectancy. I work regularly with experts who specialize in life expectancy and know how to prove that with the right financial resources and supports, that a child's life expectancy shouldn't be much different than it would have been in absence of the birth injury in the first place, and therefore is entitled to a lifetime's worth, a long lifetime's worth of income loss and supports. All right, everyone, those are some answers to questions of what you might be able to expect during a birth injury lawsuit. To submit any more questions, feel free to comment down below or reach out to us at valentlegal.ca for a free conversation with an experienced birth injury lawyer.